So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 7 now. So in this video, I want to discuss my current feelings now on the iPhone 7, as some people have been asking me to give my updated take on this one, as it is now the cheapest iPhone you can get and one of the better values on the market when it comes to iPhones, especially if you're not trying to pay $500+ for an iPhone. The iPhone 7 still sits at a pretty reasonable price point with a lot of different color options, as you can see right here. And the key specifications right now do actually still perform very well for the iPhone 7. You have an Apple A10 CPU with 2 GB of RAM, and no matter what you throw at this phone, even in 2018, it still seems to be operating just as good as it did when it came out. Clocked in at 2.34 gigahertz with 2 GB of RAM. The optimization of iOS doesn't really need 3 or 4 for a phone this size at 4.7 inches LCD. It's not pushing that many pixels. This thing is still very fast. Even games will load faster than a lot of Android phones that have, Snapdragon 845s and newer GPUs. So this one right here, still a very fast device here. You can play PUBG, you can play all of your latest and favorite games for iOS here on this device, even now. And in terms of the size, I really do like the design still of the iPhone 7 when it comes to the size. Now, one thing that does feel old about it is the home button and the thicker bezels. That's one thing about this design that feels old, but there's not really any iPhones that are really small anymore, and they're all getting bigger, and the iPhone 7 is starting to feel very petite. Now, many people wanted to see an upgrade to the SE, but now that that's gone, this is now your smallest option you can buy right now in Apple stores. So this guy right here, a very small option. If you like smaller devices, you're definitely going to still prefer something like an iPhone 7. So it doesn't stand out like it's super unique, because many phones have aluminum builds, but it doesn't feel cheap whatsoever in the iPhone 7 if you bought it today. It still feels premium. I want to discuss a little bit now about the display, because the display is something that has been massively improved with the iPhone 10 series, as well as the 10R getting a larger screen, but that still has LCD at the same pixel resolution. So this one right here has the same resolution basically as what you're going to get on the 10R, but you have a 16:9 screen, and everything seems to be properly optimized. A lot of applications are not properly optimized for the iPhone 10R just yet, where they all are for the iPhone 7. This experience still feels very polished, even though it has a older aspect ratio. The display does have night shift, but there's no true tone. Although it does get plenty bright, and even though it's an LCD screen, the contrast is still pretty good, and they boosted it a little bit in iOS 12. So the display looks better than it did in prior iOS versions for the iPhone 7, especially on some of those zingy wallpapers they have in settings menu. So one thing about buying the iPhone 7, when you put the view in the zoom mode, these icons get massive. Even compared to the zoomed view on the 10R, they just don't look this big as they do on the iPhone 7. So you can just see they're very large here. Let's go ahead and go look at how large these icons are now. So if you're somebody who can't really see the phone too well, or your eyes aren't that great and you need something to be very large, the icons in the zoom view for the iPhone 7 are just massive here. This also applies to the 7 Plus as well. But if you see, it just so large. It takes up the whole screen. Very easy to see your icons here for the iPhone 7 in zoom view. A lot of people don't like this, but it's still there as an option if you do have trouble seeing your smartphone. So when it comes to the camera, you still have a single camera. It cannot do 4K 60, but it can still do 4K 30. Now, one thing that has been massively improved in the new smartphones is the camera when it comes to dynamic range as well as exposure. So if you're taking photos and you don't have a lot of stuff in the background that's like going to be overexposed, like a sky, for example, or clouds, things like that, then you probably won't mind the iPhone 7. But if you like everything in the background to be in detail, the new cameras on the iPhones blow away the iPhone 7. But in terms of just objects, so like when you take photos of an object like this box here in the picture, it's still going to look pretty close to the same detail as the new iPhone. So overall, I think dynamic range is the big upgrades with the new ones, as well as just finding a little bit more of a brighter photo than you're going to get with the iPhone 7. You might have to brighten it up a little bit more to get the perfect shot here. Software is very similar, although there's no portrait mode here at all for this device. So if you're looking for a dual camera or you're looking for a portrait mode camera, the iPhone 7 is something you might want to steer clear of. On the whole, if you decide to buy an iPhone 7 right now, I think you'll be happy with the camera. You're probably not going to be blown away with it, but you'll be definitely pleased enough with it. Like, it gets the job done. That's how I can describe it. It just does its job, but it doesn't do anything that's like gonna blow you away. It's a good camera for a smartphone. But if you want to see more about the camera, I did a most detailed camera review on the planet of this phone a while back. I will leave that link up here in a card or down below. My experience with the battery on the iPhone 7 has never been fantastic. It's always been kind of that medium kind of battery phone where you wake up at 9, it's pretty much dead by the middle of the afternoon. So this one is not the phone I would say is going to go all day long, unless, of course, you're a light user. If you're a light user, you're at work or something, you put your phone in your bag, you put it in the locker, you keep it in your pocket, you just check the time here and there, of course it'll last all day. But if you're actually using the phone, heavy use, you're definitely going to need a top up midday with the iPhone 7. Also, if you're having performance issues with iPhone 7, it's likely because of the throttling mode that was enabled by a random restart or shut off you've had on your 7 before. So you might want to disable that if you want your fast performance back. So in terms of audio performance, this was the first iPhone to access the headphone jack and bring external speakers on the top and the bottom, although these weren't that loud compared to the newer iPhones. They weren't bad either. So they're not the loudest of all the iPhones out there, but they're definitely better than the older iPhones that had the single mono speakers at the bottom. And call quality, pretty solid here on the iPhone 7. Not the best I've heard on a phone. The earpiece is not as loud as I've heard. I've heard better sounding phones, but I haven't had too many drop calls with this phone, and overall it did its job as a phone. So I'm not too disappointed with the call quality either. Given my final take for the iPhone 7 now, it's November 2018. This one sits as the cheapest option you could get right now, and this one definitely is an older version of that iPhone experience, and Apple's moving so fast with all their new iPhones with Face ID. You're definitely not on the latest. However, what you will have is the latest software, and even though this phone has an older style UI compared to the new gesture system, it's still going to basically run everything Apple for quite some time. And with the A10 Fusion, I'm expecting it to go at least 3 more years likely on software. So the iPhone 7 is still a good iPhone if you're looking for a super compact, powerful smartphone that has a pretty good camera and is going to get software updates for quite some time, and you don't have to pay over $500 for one if you do want to get your hands on the iPhone 7. Anyway, that's my take on it now. I think the 7 Plus is the better value right now though, so consider checking out my video where I discuss that one, link down below. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns on the Apple iPhone 7, let me know down below in the comments section of this video. I will try to get back to as many comments that you have down there. And if you found this video helpful, entertaining, informing, click that like button for me and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to be well. Thank you very much for watching, and peace.